Hello, sports fan, and welcome to the Packs for Breakfast All-Star Team. And this is an all-star team. Few of these guys are really good all-stars. One of them would be a future all-star. One of these guys is towards the end of his career, not having a good go of it. One of these guys is towards the beginning of his career, not having a good go of it. One of these guys is a little past his prime, but probably still in the prime mode. And there's another guy that's defying how long you should have a prime for. So we will start off with, these are the 1990 Fleer cards. This is based off the 89 series. 1989, the Oakland Athletics won the World Series. Most famously, the Earthquake series. We all remember it. It's like we don't all remember it. If you're of a certain vintage, you remember the 89 World Series. You remember watching the game and watching live as the big quake happened in San Francisco. Flattening freeways. I think it messed up the bridge between Oakland and San Francisco. It was a mess. Pancaked cars underneath the freeway in the freeway system. It was a mess. It was a bad day. But the Oakland Athletics came out on top. San Francisco, of course, is 30 some odd years past that, 36 years past that. I'm sure there are scars there that will never heal, but it's like that's what season these cards are based on, the 1989 season. These are the 90 Fleer is a much nicer looking card than 91 Fleer, but a bit on the plain side. White background with, just a solid color border. It's a nice look, but it could have had a little more flash, but it's way better than 91 Fleer. So we'll start off with Steve Sax. Steve Sax, this was his first year away from the Dodgers. And in his first year away from the Dodgers, he's batted .315, 5 home runs, 63 RBIs with 43 stolen bases. You almost forget Steve Sax was a pretty good base stealer. Not Vince Coleman, type of base stealing or Ricky Henderson, but he was still a very good base stealer. His totals up until that point, he was a .287 hitter, 35 home runs, 396 RBIs at this point with 415 stolen bases. I think Steve Sax had a few pretty good years with the Yankees, but he had given about 8 seasons to the Dodgers because he was in his 9th season at this point. So probably still in his prime, and still had a few more good years left to give the Yankees, unfortunately. But he was a Dodger, so I wasn't going to like him anyway, except he was on an episode of The Simpsons, which made me kind of like the guy because, he was on The Simpsons and I think he was the one that got radioactive poisoning, radiation poisoning, I think is what his thing was. Then we move over to Gary Carter. Gary Carter at this point had played 16 years in the MLB. His 89 was not good. He had only played 50 games and was only batting .183 with 2 home runs and 15 RBIs. So he was struggling. But I mean, he had a very good career up, up until that point. He was batting .265 for his career with 304 home runs and 1,143 RBIs. Gary Carter is a very good catcher. I mean, he's a very good player. But you could tell this is starting to become the end for him. He had played, I think this was his 5th year with the Mets. And the Mets did get some pretty decent years out of him. So we'll talk about Dante Bichette first. Dante Bichette was at the very beginning of his career. Now here in Colorado, we love Dante Bichette. It's like we remember him in 93, 94, 95, 96. We remember the big home runs. We remember the mullet. We remember the not so good of playing right field. He played left field a lot of times. Because Larry Walker was our right fielder for a lot of it, what Dante was here. But we love Dante Bichette. Dante Bichette came up with big home runs When he was here, he had an MVP type season, but they gave it to, I think, Ken Caminiti that year, which I thought was wrong because Bichette's numbers were way better. But it was the Coors Field bias. It wasn't at Mile High at the time because I think it was 95 or 96, so it was probably moved on to Coors. But Bichette in 1989 batted .210 with 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, and he only played 48 games. Up until that point, he had only played 69 games total in the majors. He bounced around a lot in the minors. And the thing is, it's like you look at his minor league numbers, he doesn't have a lot of pop in his bat in the minors. And this is the kind of stuff that gives a lot of credence to people saying that Coors Field was the generator of these power numbers. Because if you look at his minor league numbers, they don't tell the story of a guy that's going to hit 40 plus home runs in a season. They just don't. Because I think his minor league career was mostly in the teens in hitting home runs. So he was not a big bat. I don't think they were really expecting him to be a big bat. But he would go on to greater things for Colorado, but for his career up until that point, he was only batting .223 with 3 home runs and 23 RBIs for the Angels. Now we're going to move on to one of the greatest all-time players in MLB history, Nolan Ryan. He's been 23 years in the league, I think, at this point, because he started in 66, didn't play 67, came back up in 68. So it might have been his 24th year, maybe. In 1989, he had a 3.2 ERA, 16-10 record. This was his first year with the Rangers after spending quite a few years with the Astros. 239 innings pitched, 6 complete games, and 301 strikeouts that season. Now, the 6 complete games, you're talking about a guy that's played for 23 or 24 years. Even in the best case scenario that he started when he was 18, that means he's played. That means he's 41 or 42, and he's pitching 6 complete games and still striking out 300 and still has a low ERA of 3.2. For his career up to that point, he had a 3.15 ERA, so he wasn't far off of his career numbers. He had a 289 and 263 record. He also had pitched 4,786 innings up to that point. He had struck out 5,076 by the time he got to 1989. Now, here's the thing that's going to boggle the minds of young people. In his career up to that point, he had 213 complete games. 213 complete games. That tells you how he gets to that 4,786 in a third innings. But Nolan Ryan, he was a workhorse. He was the guy that it's like it just never seemed like he could ever, you don't need him to retire. But I think his last couple of seasons he really did drop off the table a bit, because he would win another, in the next 4 seasons, he would win another 30-some-ish games. So, I mean, he's not putting up the big numbers in the next 3 or 4 years, but he would still strike out another 700 guys in those next 3 or 4 years. So, the very definition of a great is Nolan Ryan. And that's All-Star for now.